the reciprocal method. Totally not doing that. The reciprocal method is going to say, well, yeah, what really happens? Well, HR supports janitorial. Janitorial supports HR, as well as they're each supporting the production departments. So the reciprocal method means we're going to allocate simultaneously cost from HR to janitorial, janitorial back to HR, as well as the 3 production departments. This is why you take that algebra class. Because with the 2, it's simple enough we can do by hand. That's going to be solving for 2 variables, 2 equations. We'll go through that. The next step, though, in your Excel Project 4, which I'll get all copied out for you next week, is going multiple service departments. How do we handle that? Well, that's matrix algebra. I'm not going to have you calculate matrix algebra by hand. Excel does it quite easily. So Excel Project 4, I would say, including time to actually enter all the information, it probably won't take you more than 30 minutes to do. So Excel 4 is fairly easy. Excel is as simple, as long as I put a little video up there and you do exactly what you're supposed to do, it instantaneously does it for you. So that one's fairly easy. So next time, we're going to look at solving 2 equations at the same time so that we can simultaneously allocate cost back and forth. And finish this whole thing up. Alright, so I want to show you Mikey's. Go back to Mikey and Tasty Treats. Where remember, I just put it in terms of S1 and B1, trying to keep it simple. It's HR and janitorial, but basically S1 had $160,000 in cost. S2 had $26,000 in cost. S1 provided 200 hours of work to S2, 300 hours to production 1, 400 to production 2, and 100 to production 3.
And it's 100,000.
Oh yeah, sorry. We're at 60. $400 hours to S1, 200 to P1, 150, 250. So what's going to happen here? We're going to allocate cost from S1 to S2 at the exact same time we're allocating cost from S2 to S1, while we're allocating cost to the production departments. In order to do that, we need to know exactly how much cost, when it's all said and done, they're through going back and forth, are being allocated out. We know in total it's 126, but what is the relationship? What's going to be this final number? It's going to have something from S2 to give it a new total, and then S2 is going to get something from S1 to have its new total. So then we can take these percentages and allocate them out. We have to do that by something that's called solving simultaneous equations. As long as it's just two support departments is what we'll do. If it's more than two support departments, we have to do something called matrix algebra. And that's a little bit difficult by hand, or at least I don't want to teach it to you if you don't know what it is. That's where Excel is going to come in with your Excel project. You don't have to understand what's going on with matrix algebra to push the little buttons in Excel to have Excel do it. I don't require you to understand it at all. You just have to go through the motions to do it. But you will understand at least somewhat with our two support departments here. So what we're going to do is say the support department S1 on its own incurred $100,000 in costs, providing services to the other departments. Support department S2 provided 40% of its services to S1. So total support department S1. What this is going to come out as. It has its own $100,000. Plus, it's going to get cost from S2. Well, it's going to get 40% of the cost from S2. You can see 40% here on all these ones. So see, now we're not ignoring anything. It all totals to 1,000, by the way. So S1, 100,000 from itself, 40% of the total cost from S2 will be allocated to S1. So that's going to be the total cost for S1. I want to see where I'm getting that from. Zone plus what's going to be allocated to it from S2. So what is S2? So what is this? Well, S2 is its own 26,000 plus what it's going to receive from S1, from HR. Well, HR provided 200 hours to S2 out of the total 1,000. So that's 20% of the total time. So 20% of S1's cost will be allocated to S2. Okay. And if it makes it simpler for you to see equations, change S1 to X and S2 to Y. The book doesn't do that, so you want to be careful. So what we have, two equations, two unknown variables. Somewhere in algebra you may not have paid much attention, but you solved these type of things before. So what you have to do, we need an equation with just one variable, right? That's how you solve. You can't solve a single equation that has two variables. Well, what is x defined as? Well, x is defined in terms of y. So if we take, I'm sure this is the way I do it because otherwise I can confuse on my notes. This, because x equals this, into x right there, we'll have an equation with just y's. Fill in x, 100,000 plus out 0.2 times the 100,000. Let's box some zeros there. Give us 20,000. 0.2 times 0.4 will be 0.08. Why? Next step in solving equations, get the like terms on one side. So let's get y on this side. So this technically is a 1 in front of the y. Remember that. So we're going to subtract 0.8y from both sides. Leave us with 0.92y. 26,000 plus 20,000. 46,000. Need to get y by itself, so we have to do divide by 0.92. Y equals $50,000. Y, remember, is S2. This is going to be 50. Now that we've solved and figured out y, we can plug that back in and figure out x. We just have to plug the 50 in here. So we don't have to go through all of that to solve for the other side. We just plug in what we've just figured out, 50. So 100,000 plus 0.4 times 50,000. Plus 20,000 is 120,000. This will be 120. Then we can allocate out based on these percentages. So, 120,000 we'll allocate 24,000 to S2, 36,000 to P1, 48,000 to P2, and 12,000 to P3. Based on the fact we did all of this to figure out what that total cost will be for S1. We then take S2, allocate out its 50,000. This 20,000. $7,500, 12,500. So to get this to 50, 26,000 plus 24 is 50,000. 50,000 is allocated out. 100,000 plus 20,000 is 120. Here, 120,000 is allocated out. So when we do all the netting, finally on this side, we will have allocated out 126,000. it's all said and done. It's just part of it is allocated between these two at the same time. So solve the equations to figure out what that total amount will be when it's all said and done for what S1 is allocating out and what S2 is allocating out. The only reason this is a little difficult is because you got to start remembering some algebra here. Because really, cost allocation side, it's the same thing we've been doing. It's just this time we get to use all of our information for both. And we just have these new numbers based on this little piece we have to do first. Alright? So go back to this problem with Warren LTD and see if you can do reciprocal method for them.